Welcome to the Aaron Harber Show. I'm your host, Aaron Harber, and today I'm honored to have recently retired U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. Justice O'Connor, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Aaron. Glad to be here.
Well, I'd like to start off with, I think a lot of people don't really know the lives of Supreme Court justices and what
do we do?
What do you do and what's a day like or what's a week like?
I'll tell you, the job description is pretty simple because we just do three things, believe it or not. We decide first as a group what cases to accept for review at the court. Petitions are filed with the court month in and month out throughout the year. All the justices review them. We usually get memos from law clerks concerning them. And then we actually vote on which ones we should accept for hearing.
So do all 9 of you sit down together?
We do.
You have a list of cases?
We have a list and we go over them, and if any justice can say, let's discuss this one, that one, and the other one. And we vote on the ones that we think should be discussed. If nobody thinks it should be discussed, it's automatically denied. And out of the some 8,000 or so petitions that are filed a year, the court has been taking less than 100 in recent years. So the court's pretty selective in what it takes. Normally, there are votes to take cases where there are conflicting holdings on the issue in the lower courts.
So do you have to have 5 of the 4 justices to take a case?
No, we follow the so-called rule of 4. It takes the vote of only 4 of the 9 justices to accept a case. That was important because for many years of the court's history, it didn't have discretion about what cases to take. And when William Howard Taft was Chief Justice, he's the one who persuaded Congress to give the court discretion. And the Congress was a little hesitant. But he said, well, look, if you'll give us discretion, we'll follow the practice that it only takes 4 of the 9 of us to accept a case. Congress thought that was reasonable, and we still follow that practice.
How do you sort through 8,000 cases?
Well, that's part of the reading. I mean, to be a Supreme Court justice, you read all the time. You have to read the petitions, read the responses if there are any, read the briefs that are filed, read everything. It amounts to about 1,500 pages a day of reading, if you can believe it.
Okay, so now you've selected the cases for the term, approximately 100. What happens next?
The second job is doing our homework to resolve the ones that we accept for review. And there's a lot of homework because the parties file briefs, and we permit the filing of friend of the court briefs by people who aren't parties to the case, but who care about the issue. And there might be a great stack of briefs on many of the cases, and you have to do all that reading. So we do a lot of homework to prepare before the oral argument on the case. And every case that we review gets an oral argument and the filing of briefs.
Now, the oral argument isn't normally a very lengthy period of time. How much time
Typically, we allow an hour per case, a half an hour per side. The court can grant longer time for a complicated matter, but that's unusual.
Have other levels of the judiciary ever thought about limiting case hearings to that kind of time?
Well, many of the courts of appeals give less than we do for argument.
But a lot of cases, of course, at the initial level go on for, we hear lay people such as myself, we hear they go on for days or weeks or months.
Well, I don't think so. It might take many months before the process is completed, but I think in terms of oral arguments before the lower courts, they often allow less than we do.
What do you think citizens should know about the judiciary when you look at Americans and in their role as citizens in this country? What is lacking in what we know about the judiciary?
Well, one of the primary things that the framers of our fantastic Constitution did when they wrote it was to establish 3 separate branches of government, each one independent, each one having some power over the other 2. And the system has worked remarkably well for well over 200 years now. What the framers designed means that it's more difficult to get legislation passed and to get coordinated action, but at the same time, it provides several guarantees for each of the separate branches. And I think that was the great contribution of the Constitution. And overlaid on that was the adoption of a Bill of Rights, which has been very, very important to our citizens.